Hey, it's Aaron. Today I'm with the 2022 Nissan Pathfinder. This is the 5th generation of the Pathfinder, all new for this year. New powertrain to improve fuel efficiency a little bit. New styling, you'll see that, and we'll talk more about it in a minute. And just lots of little improvements. This is Nissan's smaller 3-row, so this is a 3-row crossover SUV. The next one up from this would be the Armada. Next one down from this would be the Murano. So beautifully sized, well done vehicle on most fronts. But I have a couple caveats. So the first thing is Nissan changed the V6 a little bit that's under the hood here and improved a few things because of that. Fuel economy is a little better. This is EPA rated at 27 mpg on the highway. That's in best case scenario. This particular one is 26 on the highway because it is all-wheel drive. My highway drive did not return that. I got more like 24.6. I attribute some of that to altitude and maybe a little crosswinds on that day, mostly to altitude, because this is a naturally aspirated engine. There is no turbo. So we usually lose about 1 mpg here because I'm at about 6,400 feet versus where most of the testing happens, which is pretty close to sea level. So accounting for that, I would say it's fairly close to that EPA number, but other reports are saying that they aren't getting it either. So I think it's going to matter a lot how you use that right foot. And it's difficult not to push the foot down. The reason for that being that this engine is never in a hurry. It doesn't ever feel sluggish, but it always feels like it's going to take its time. There's pretty good confidence with the engine. I didn't ever feel like I was not going to be able to make it, or I was not going to be able to merge or anything like that. But there's just not a whole lot of pep. So it's one of the things you have to account for if you decide to own one of these. Other than that, all-wheel drive system is pretty good. It is springtime in Wyoming. I have a head cold. We've had snow, and now it's melted, and everything is green, all in 1 week. We went from like 35 degrees to today it's supposed to be almost 60, and later in the week we'll be pushing 80. So, welcome to Wyoming in the spring. I think it's summer technically now. Whatever. So let's talk about design. Because that's a big deal on this new one. They did a lot of changes that are very good, and then we'll talk about the working end and the interior and so forth. So looking at it from the side, you can see it's grown a little bit. It looks a little bigger. Physically, it's not too much bigger than the previous generation, but it has a bulkier look about it now. They've taken away some of that sporty refinement and forward movement they had in it before and made it a little boxier, a little more SUV. I think that's a good thing because this is one of the more capable crossover SUVs you can get. I'll talk about that again in a minute. As I walk into the picture so you can get a little perspective, you can see it's fairly sizable. Body lines are really simple, but deceptively so. So you have the hood here, and it moves in a couple of layers, but it just quickly goes down to make almost a square, but not quite. There is a shelf right here. And that just creates that bulk, right? That in the front. So you have the line that comes up along here. It runs like that, and then comes up along here, and then runs through here, underneath this side mirror, and then fades just right there, right about there. Underneath that is a bone line that's creating a curve right here that runs through the door handle and then stops right about here where this line starts and creates this really aggressive shelf. So this shelf is very, very aggressive and it creates a big beefy rear fender as a result. You can see it runs through the light and everything else. Across the top there is a slight downslope, but not very much. It's pretty square, and again that creates that muscular look, that tall look. They deleted the very rear pillar to create a wraparound because that's the current style. Everybody seems to want to do that, and instead emphasize this pillar here. And then the black roof on this particular one creates just kind of a, I don't know, a two-tone look for the vehicle. So overall, really interesting design. I like the way they did these rocker panels down here to be halfway between rocker panel and running board down there. So it's kind of a interesting little, you know, it's a sharp cut right here, and it juts out to make sort of a running board look, even though it's not functional, but also a thick piece underneath to create that rocker panel for the toughness, the off-road stuff, the robust thing. So really nicely done. Good wheels on this. I like the look of them. I like the overall design. I like the overall look of this particular package right here. We'll get to the packaging in a minute. We'll talk about the Monroney. Let's go look at the working end, and then we'll get inside of it. So on the back side here, you can see that it's changed a little bit. The current trend is to have the name of the vehicle big in big lettering on the back. That's a thing that's happening right now all over the marketplace. You can see the rear spoiler is short and fat and abrupt. Doesn't stick out too much, doesn't do too much. Third light right there. And then this comes down to the slope and then flat. And that gives it a tall look, makes it taller than it is. Also, this is not equipped with a towing package, but if you do get a towing package, this is rated at 6,000 pounds for towing. That's pretty amazing for this segment. There are very few in this segment that can pull that kind of weight. So highly useful right there. This has a bunch of stuff to aid in towing if you do get the towing package. So worth getting, I think. If I were to buy one, I would definitely want it. Even if I don't tow anything, it just adds the extra storage. You can put a rack back here, add your bikes, your cooler, whatever. Anyway, opening it up, I've got one of the third row seats deployed and one down, so you can see how much cargo space there is one way or the other. So if you have these up, you just have about this much. It's maybe 3.5 feet at most of cargo floor there, but you also have this underfloor storage bin which has drain plugs in it. This is really cool. We put a bunch of groceries in there that we didn't want to get crushed. A couple things we wanted to be able to, you know, keep from rolling around, a cantaloupe and stuff, and just kind of stuffed them in there, and then put the bigger stuff on top after closing it. That's a really cool little feature. There's tie downs in each corner. There's 4 of them, so if you have these down, you have access to ones up there. And then there's some grocery hooks back here as well. Now, cargo is pretty good in this. It's a nice square opening. Nice job on that. Let's go look at the second and third row, and then we'll talk about the driver. So here in the second row of seating, the outboards are really comfortable, about as comfortable as you can expect from a vehicle like this. This particular package has a few extras. There are built-in window shades in the doors, seat back pockets, both USB-C and USB-A plugs, rear outboard seating, rear climate back here, so tri-zone climate, so you can control the climate back here. Extra drink holders. There's 2 or 3. There's 3 per door. 2 in the top and 1 in the bottom. And then in the middle, if you drop it down, there's also this with a couple of drink holders on the armrest. So lots of places to put things in here. The door handles are also pockets. You can drop little things in there. It's a good spot to put like a phone or something for somebody that's back here. Just really nicely thought out. Tons of headroom. You can see I have good knee room right here. I'm at, I'm going to say I've got 2.5 inches of leg room, and this seat is set for me at 6'3". Also, I've got, look at that. That's pretty close to 3 inches of headroom up there. Again, I'm 6'3", so lots of room inside here. Let's get into that third row. It's going to be a squeeze, and then we'll talk about the driver's seat. To get to the third row, you don't use this because that folds the seat down all the way flat. You use this button here. Seat pops forward. You push it. There's your entrance right there. Whew. So this is me in the third row. I'm gonna have to. I'll sit up, but you won't be able to see it because I can't get a good camera angle. It's pretty tight back here. Not very comfortable. I'm just going to be really frank on that. I'm not even going to put that seat forward because that'll block the camera, but you can see where my knee is with this seat. I would be really cramped back here. Headroom is just barely enough for somebody my size at 6'3". I'm scraping my hair a little bit. So you could probably get somebody up to almost 6'4" back here insofar as headroom goes. Everything else though, no bueno. This is really for kids. So in a vehicle this size, you're mostly really aiming for the third row to be for kid use, and it's probably occasional. It shouldn't be permanent. If you're using this third row all the time, you really do need a bigger vehicle. You should be looking at minivans and full-size SUVs. As a side note, there is a button right here that folds the seat forward in this same way, so that the person in the third row has a way to get out. Okay, up here in front, very different story from that third row. Hugely comfortable. I've heard complaints about these seats. I don't know why people are complaining. I think they're great. They feel really good for me. They're just bolstered okay, not too sporty, not too much, more cushion than bolster, which is good because this is not a sports car. This is a car for spending a fair amount of time in. Lots of headroom. I've got probably, that's 4 inches there. I've got lots of headroom here, lots of leg room, as much as I want to make for myself. Couple of things to note: that seat, the passenger seat in this model, is not very adjustable. It can't lift up at all, which is lame because it's right on the floor, so the passenger is not nearly as comfortable as the driver is over here. That sucks. I really wish they'd rethought that. Otherwise, nice layout, nice interior. I like the placement of things. I like the huge amount of storage. This has a spot for your phone that's rubberized right here, plus a little, you can stand your phone up in it thing. A couple of drink holders. There's a couple more, one in each door. Just nicely laid out. Couple of caveats, things that I don't like. The infotainment, it feels buggy. It keeps like not loading screens, not downloading info from like Sirius. It will occasionally just decide it doesn't want a Bluetooth right now. Lots of little bugs keep happening, and that was happening in the prototype version of this that I drove last year, and in this full production model it's still happening. That tells me it's not just a fluke. It's something that's going to happen to people. That's a real bummer. Another thing to note, this has seat heating in the front, of course. It also had it in the back. The seat heating is really aggressive, so you'll find yourself using the lower settings, the 1 or 2 instead of the full 3, pretty often because it gets very aggressive. That for me is fine. I like that. I would rather not have to have it on full blast just to get a tiny bit of warmth out of it. I would rather have the adjustability. Also, Nissan is one of the few companies that's thoughtful enough that if you leave the seat heating on when you turn the car off, when you turn it on again later, seat heating comes back on. A lot of companies, you have to turn it on every single time. It's a giant pain. This is really cool. Little settings like that get remembered. This also has Nissan's ProPilot system in this one, and I like that system. It's a good highway cruising system. It doesn't bug out. It doesn't do weird things. It's fully aware of what you're doing, and it lets you know when it can't do something. Gives you plenty of notice, it's just nicely done. Nissan spent a lot of time perfecting that system over the years, and it's very, very good. Now let's talk about price tags. The Pathfinder starts at somewhere around the $36,000 mark. So for the lower end, you're going to be at $36K. You can see 3.5 liters V6, 284 horsepower, 9-speed automatic. That's a big change this year. Intelligent 4x4. So like I said, it's more like an all-wheel drive system. You don't actually have control of the 4-wheel drive in that you can't control any transfer case or anything for high or low gears. So it's more like all-wheel drive. There you go. You can see what's on the options list for this bad boy. I just said bad boy. I'm so middle-aged. Anyway, yeah. My dad, I say things like, let's saddle up. Anyway, alright, let's wrap this up. This is the 2022 Nissan Pathfinder. This particular one's the Platinum Edition. I really like this overall, but there are plenty of spaces where it could improve, and the competition in this market is fierce. So Nissan's going to have a little work cut out for them. But upsides, pretty good fuel economy, I guess, for the class, really good towing, and I love the color scheme on this particular one and the option for two-tone that it has. I really like the look of this, and I really enjoy the interior, especially from the driver's perspective. The driver and the second row passengers really got it made in this thing. So that's it. That's what I got. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.